right, now for more reaction to the President's announcement, we're joined now by Restaurant Association of South Africa CEO, Wendy Alberts. Wendy, good evening and thank you very much for your time joining us tonight on In Focus. The President keeping the country on alert lockdown level 1, so there will be no restrictions at the moment, but a clear message, I suppose, coming from government to say they want to then take this time and look at how citizens are going to behave and certainly not adhering to the non-pharmaceutical protocols in place, but also the uptake on vaccination. What is the view of the restaurant sector in support of mandatory vaccination, one for your staff, but what's the conversation around passports for your patrons?
Look, I think one of the key things that we need to begin by is, first of all, to thank President Ramaphosa for his good leadership. It's been a challenging week for us with the recent announcement of the new variant. And, while we understand that there's this massive concern over the emergence of the new Omicron, I think that this week really has set a tone that indicates, where there's irresponsible messaging that's put forward, it causes complete and utter panic. We've been vulnerable from the start of COVID. We've been the one industry that certainly has felt hardship on every single level, and where economic sabotage has really been felt on our doorstep. And we've had not any type of compensation, debt deferment. We still have challenges with landlords. We're still in deep debt with banks. Suppliers have cut off resources for us. We're still struggling with TERS, UIF. We've got liquor license challenges, load shedding challenges, water. There's constant elements that have obviously affected our industry. And I think one of the key things that we need to always remind each other when we're having these conversations surrounding whether it's vaccinations or whether it is protocols or whether it's regulations, is that one of the key things that we've done as an industry is we've always advocated complete compliance. So when government had asked us for our support and to work with them, we have ticked box every single box. So when it came to the beginning, and they asked us to remodel our businesses, to takeaways, deliveries, to bottle stores, coffee shops, picnic spots, roadhouse, etc., we've done all of this to show compliance and to always put the highest degree of health and safety for both our patrons and our staff. And as we've moved through all these lines, we've done what we've needed to do, and there's been no guarantee that we're not going to face another lockdown. Yeah. So what we have to understand is that we need government to explain to us why we are not always properly prepared when it comes to all of these things. Yeah. So is a conversation about vaccination really the key conversation we need to have here, or is it that we're not adequately prepared to face another lockdown? Yeah. And if the lockdown happens, it's going to be a complete economic catastrophe for our industry. We simply cannot face another lockdown. And this unannounced variant has been on our doorsteps. There's been talk and noise of it for weeks to come. And these scenarios should have been properly put together and planned and presented for ways that we don't have any risk on the economy. Right. And for the next 2 weeks, it's going to be a very hard fight and a very hard challenge for us moving through to ensure that we don't face any further lockdowns and that we don't do anything to cause any more harm to our industry.
Are you going to be having any representation on that task team for vaccine mandates?
We certainly are hoping that they'll include us. What we've said is we need to use the information that we've had over the last 2 years to engage with government on a very successful notion that we can move forward, that we understand what the commercial consequences are on both the lockdown and how we move through without going to lockdown. The industry has done everything to support government. We have on every level ticked every single box. And I go back and I say that the conversation that we should be having is not all about this only. We also need government to respond differently to the dialogue about COVID and lockdown. And we need to find ways of keeping the economy open as opposed to threaten to switch our industry's lights on and off. We're always an industry that feels targeted. We're always an industry that feels the most challenged. And we're the industry that always has the most restrictions. But yet, from lockdown, there was a conversation that was taking place that we needed to properly prepare the healthcare system. Yeah. And I think it's time now that we need to suit fit to prepare that healthcare system, that there are sufficient beds. Right. And I was relieved because it was one of the things that we wrote to the President's letter was that we need to adequately prepare the healthcare system, that we avoid lockdowns and can keep the economy open. So, we need to look at limiting any future damage to the industry. Yeah. And one of the key things we said is that there needs to be a massive responsibility that is taken to protect our industry, the economy and the jobs in our industry. Yeah. We cannot go through another 2 years where people are losing their ability to earn an income, where they feel that their livelihoods are completely decimated. Right. some staff have waited 2 years to come back to work.
Yeah.
And they've just got a job in our industry 2 years through the different levels of lockdown.
No,
now
indeed.
only to be threatened with the aspect of losing their jobs and may not being returned to any type of work for some time, an unknown time to come.
What is the real threat then
we're here to talk to government. We need to be included in a recovery program and a support program, and we hope that they'll include us on their vaccination panel.
What is the real threat of the impact then of this? It's not a self-imposed lockdown, but it's a ban that has been brought on us because of new measures that are being taken by the United Kingdom, for example, to deal with this Omicron. And of course, if the flights are cut, it means the hospitality sector suffers. It means the restaurant sector suffers. It means the alcohol sector suffers, because these are the people who come in and take advantage of this offering. And the UK being one of South Africa's biggest markets, how does this then impact your sector, and what's your reaction to the bans?
Look, we certainly put a statement out that we felt that the press conference was really poorly handled. You know, it was premature, and we should not have caused the catastrophe that we did across the world. We've been very reliant on that international inbound tourism to come and to settle and to bring financial reprieve into our sector. It is one of the key components that we need for financial recovery, especially in tourism. Restaurants is very much part of tourism, and hospitality is very much about the tourism experience. And what we need to do is we really need to get to a position where we mobilize this, and there is a lot of confidence, and there's confident communication about how safe our restaurants are in South Africa, as well as what a beautiful country it is to come and visit.
Yeah.
So we certainly have seen that there are French tourists that have been coming back, and that there's been a lot of confidence for international visitors to come here.
Yeah.
So to set this panic and completely shut down that international market, that damage is irreparable. And then for us then to have further louder noises being made that there could be further threats on our domestic tourism, and to potentially cut down into provincial tourism, that can't work.
Yeah.
We all need to integrate each other. We need to support this country. We need to be able to support the levels of lockdown and not shut the economy down. There are very many other smarter ways that we can move through.
True.
And the key component, again, which I'm going to remind everybody about, was a dialogue we started off with, that in order to avoid any type of economical downfall, we needed to adequately prepare the healthcare system. 2 years into this, the healthcare system should be sophisticated. It should be adequately prepared. There should be enough beds. The extension on hospitals should be there. People should have been trained to be able to be care workers or caregivers, and there should have been a far greater employment of nurses than what we currently have.
Yeah.
We just simply cannot switch the economy on and off. And in a business like restaurants, it certainly doesn't make any financial sense. We'll have a financial bloodbath on our hands if we have to have another lockdown. It's expensive. It's complicated to prepare for the season. We can't just simply order in stock. There's cash flow. There is a financial model that needs to be met. We need to look at managing the turnover and the amount of seats that we have in the businesses, managing stock. And by simply putting in an unannounced, irrational shutdown means we lose all that stock. We've got staff to pay. We've got upfront fees that need to be paid through to landlords, to banks, in order for us to continue to trade.
Yeah.
We've had the most difficult 2 years, and we're using this as a time really to look at some kind of financial reprieve to travel through.
Yeah.
So we need to have these conversations. They need to be confident conversations. They need to be reassuring conversations on the leadership of the country, taking the country forward by not further destroying our industry or the economy.
All right. Wendy, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for joining us, CEO of the Restaurant Association.